Well, joining me to talk about the start the Phillies have gotten off to here, an incredible start through their first 50 games, is Sam Stafford. She is one of the hosts of a show I'm really looking forward to seeing that's going to be debuting this week, the new Phillies Nation TV show, which is going to air on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and you can also see all of her stuff over at Bet Park. She does great content creation there. Follow her on Twitter, X, at Sam Staff with 3 Fs at the end, everybody. Sam, welcome to Hittin Season. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about some baseball. The Phils, so exciting right now.
Yes. I mean, I know Eagles OTAs are underway, and of course everybody gets all in their feels about that, and it's really fun to watch Jalen Hurts in shorts and a t-shirt run around. But the Phillies are the talk of baseball right now, and they should be the talk of the city, and I think for most people they are. And they have gotten off to this legendary start, Sam. Best record in franchise history through 50 games. They really are etching their names in with some other legendary teams that have gotten off to starts similar to this. The 2001 Mariners, the 98 Braves. I mean, all those different. These are legendary teams, the 84 Tigers. Do you think that right now we are watching the best Phillies team in franchise history?
Oh, I for sure think so. And I think that's with the anticipated slump that they're going to go through, because their schedule does get harder after the All-Star break. So you're going to expect some turbulence, I'll say. But I think this team has so much depth and they're just so good all around. They have perfect chemistry. So it's almost like a weird confidence where in Philly, we're used to like stressing and being like, they have to be on almost. But this team, you don't have that. Because any night, anybody can come through because of this lineup. And I feel like they just have that next man up mentality. Like they'll come off the bench. Cody Clements comes off the bench and blasts one into the night, you know? So like, but there's just so much talent and depth and the chemistry. You feel the specialness with this team. So I think that definitely we're watching something that's going to be great in the franchise history.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think the thing that Phillies fans were most worried about when Dave Dombrowski decided to run it back, and he took a lot of heat for the decision to run it back this offseason, was in these last 2 playoff runs in the World Series and in the National League Championship Series, this offense hit a dead patch. And that seemed to happen during the course of the regular seasons, too. The starting pitching was mostly good throughout, but it would be the offense that would just go dead quiet for a month. We haven't seen that here so far this year, and a lot of the credit is being given to Kevin Long and the work that they did to try and reduce their swing, their chase rate, to increase their walk rate. Seemed like the Phillies hitters were really struggling with that in the spring and through the first 2-3 weeks of the season. But the quality of at-bats that this team is having right now lend itself to almost by accident scoring 4, 5, 6 runs a game, because there are runners on every inning. Starters are getting knocked out after 4 or 5 innings. The Phillies are going after the soft underbelly of the bullpens. Like, this is how historically you've drawn it up. And I haven't seen a Phillies offense like this do it that way since the 93 Phillies, where they had 4 guys with over 100 walks. I mean, it seems like this team, Sam, one of the big reasons that they've gotten off to this start is the offense has been able to be consistent and maintain success in different ways.
Yeah, 100%. And just to your point, you said that there's always somebody on base, and that is such a key. And then you're seeing guys like Alec Bohm just come up, and everybody's just looking like they're on their A game. And it's crazy to say that in May, but yeah, everybody's coming through and they're going to the plate with such confidence and they don't look stressed. The only guy you can kind of see in his head sometimes is still Costi. We're working on him, but in my mind, that's a different conversation. But I am not worried about Costi at all. He comes up when you need him for the most part. But yeah, last year you did see them fall apart, obviously, in that D-back series, right? And I was one of the people when Dombrowski tried to run it back. I was one of the ones that was like, but obviously he's in his position because of a reason, and it seems like it's the right thing. And we knew that they had an amazing chemistry before. I already mentioned that. But I think the fact that you kept that core and they all are so mad about what happened in that D-back series, I think that's really carried into one of the reasons why they are in this position this year, and they all are striving to get better, and they're all just doing their part. And to your point as well, Kevin Long's just really stepped it up and made this whole team accountable, I want to say. They all are really doing what they can to get better, and you're seeing that.
Last year, after John Middleton signed Trey Turner to the big deal, he talked to Scott Lauber of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I wrote about this for The Good Fight this week, where he said he wanted people 100 years from now to look back at the Phillies, this group of Phillies players, this team, and maybe even specifically a team for a single season like this, as a legendary team, a team that you look back on like the 27 Yankees, like the Big Red Machine Reds. What is the possibility in your mind that we're watching something like that the 2024 Phillies are going to have a season like the 86 Mets, the 84 Tigers, these legendary teams, that the 98 Yankees that went on these heaters, they lasted the whole season and they ended up with a World Series title?
I think it's very possible, especially like you see, like, okay, there might be a time where even though the starting rotation looks unstoppable, if something does happen, knock on wood, injury or anything, now you have Spencer Turnbull right there, and he can perform. You can always pull him back. It just always seems like if you try to create something in your head that can go wrong, it seems like there's an answer, right? So I think that the possibility of this team setting records is very, very high. I think obviously they're on pace for something like 117 or 18 wins or something. I don't think they're going to quite get that, but the record for regular season wins is 102, and they might really come close to that if they keep this up. And like I said, I think they're going to hit a little slump, but I think they'll be able to rebound. And so regular season wins, I think they could break that. And most importantly, though, and we see Topper keep talking about it, none of that matters if they don't actually win it all. So I'm hoping that we don't see like some reverse psychology or something from the Braves here trying to be like, yeah, I'll take the division. We'll see you later, But yeah, I think that they have an answer to everything that you try to think could go wrong.
I mentioned that earlier in the podcast, and I fear that I breathed it into existence, like that the Phillies would win the National League East by 8 or 9 games or whatever, win 105, 106 games, and then lose to the Braves in the division series. Like I can't imagine the nightmare, but it's possible, and I don't want to think about it because let's enjoy the moment, right? That I feel like I'm ruining people's meals whenever that thought possibly pops up.
Yeah, I was mentioning it yesterday in a show that we were doing, and I was just like, I hope like that actually doesn't happen. But the other side of that, it would be the perfect time for the Phillies to come out, beat the Braves again, and be like, see, you guys were lying. The break did nothing. So there's two sides to it.
But we've all thought about it. Everybody listening, it's creeped into your head, and you've tried to push it out. And I understand that. What's been the most impressive thing about this start for you?
Well, how could you not say Ranger Suarez? So, Ranger just coming out. I knew, obviously, you expect him to get better. He's still at that age where he's able to keep improving his game. I think he's like 28. But yeah, so he's something that really just stood out. I don't think anybody knew that he was going to be this good. He started the season in betting terms at plus 5,000 at Cy Young, and now he's the 1 and 2 with Zack Wheeler at plus 400. It's absolutely insane. If anything, you would think, like Nola, throw him up there with Wheeler, but I don't think anybody had Ranger. So that's obviously something big. I mentioned Bohm. Like Bohm's just improvement on his defense at the bat. That's been a huge, huge help. But that's the thing that's why this team is so good, because they've had just such huge improvements on all sides of the ball. And it's not just those guys, it's everybody's improved their game. But if I had to choose somebody, probably Ranger or Bohm.
You mentioned the fact, and I was going to mention this to you too, that Zack Wheeler and Ranger Suarez are like 1-2 in Vegas odds for National League Cy Young Award. Who would be your pick? Like if you had to put money on it right now, Ranger Suarez, I think, is off to the better start. He's got the better numbers. If the season ended today, he's probably the Cy Young. Zack Wheeler, I think most people recognize as the best pitcher in baseball right now. Who would you say is the most likely winner of the National League Cy Young by the end of the season?
It's tough because it's a voted on thing by writers, right? So like you never know what's going through people's head. You could take it through the aspect that they're like, Ranger's a number 3. He's not going up against the competition that Wheeler's going against. So if you take that into consideration, I probably would lean Zack Wheeler. And then it's tough too because Zack Wheeler is that basic, like he is the best pitcher in baseball, and it's obvious. But then you have guys like Ranger. So I don't know. I'm like talking in circles because I have no idea. I can see everything. I don't know. I'll say I would probably still say Zack Wheeler just because of that argument that like Ranger is going against the 3 guy, but Ranger does have good stuff, man.
Yeah, and I think every now and then you encounter a pitcher who has a special season that might be an outlier for what they've done before and what they're going to do in the future, we could be looking at a season for Ranger Suarez where it all clicks in for an entire season, and he ends up. I mean, he's a likely 20-game winner, which we haven't seen in Philadelphia since the Roy Halladay days. But I mean, like, legitimately, like, could be 20-game winner, sub 2 ERA, like, have one of those special seasons where he becomes the Cy Young winner. Even though Zack Wheeler certainly looks like he's on a similar path right now. It's a great question to ask, because either way, you have these two guys at the top who are just dominating.
Yeah, I think that's what's tough about it too, because when I think about it, it's hard for me to separate just this season. So, like, obviously, you think of Zack Wheeler and you think of all the good he's done. So I think it makes me a little biased there. But to your point as well, like, Rangers got such good stuff right now. The craziest thing about it, like, this looks like it's not going to be a one-season fluke. I mean, there are matchups, and obviously it matters if his offense comes in that night for him and backs him up. But, like, his stuff is sustainable. So, I feel like it's going to be a good run for a few years for Ranger, which is exciting.
When we talk about the offense, we talk about the Phillies. The names that are coming to the forefront most quickly in our minds has been Alec Boehm. Obviously, he's been one of the top 5 players in baseball this year if you look at wins above replacement. But Bryson Stott has emerged again, these young homegrown guys. But I feel like we take Bryce Harper for granted, Sam. And he is the top first baseman in baseball right now. He leads all qualified first basemen in wins above replacement, and it's really not close with 2.0 wins above replacement. And I had to remind folks, he wasn't playing this. He had never played this position a year ago at this time. And he has cemented himself right now as the best first baseman in baseball. Do we take Bryce Harper for granted here in Philadelphia? The fact that we talk about this team and everything going on with this team, and Bryce Harper's just kind of in the background, and he's not like front and center for us, which he should be.
Oh, 100%. To your point, I actually noticed yesterday that he was leading all first basemen in WAR, and I was just absolutely shocked, because that shows just not only how good of a baseball player he is, but just how good of an athletic specimen he is, that he can just come into this new position and make it seem seamless and beat every other person that's been training there for however many years,
Right.
So, yeah. So it's just something incredible that we get to see. And you're right, everybody takes it for granted because he makes it look so easy and he's just so calm about it. And he just acts like he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And I think because he acts that way, the Philly mentality, we like the flash, we like the So I think that makes us just like, and we do definitely get complacent when we see good stuff. So yeah, we definitely take him for granted, but I don't think we like, not abuse his power, but I don't think we like, I don't think we're like giving him any bad backlash or anything. I just don't think that we're like giving him all the credit he deserves. But also, Bryce is such a great leader, and that's one thing that we don't recognize too, is part of the reason that this team is so close and has such a tight-knit community and brotherhood is because of Bryce setting that tone. So just so many parts of the ball that I don't even think people realize with Bryce Harper. So yeah, he definitely doesn't get all the credit that he deserves, which is crazy because he's still one of the best players in baseball. And we're still like, he deserves more.
Yeah, right. Still an MVP candidate. And by the end of the season, might be one of those top 5 guys with the way he's playing and starting to get hot again. So 2 home runs in the first 2 games of the series against the Rangers. Couple more questions for you, Sam. Of the 3 players that I'm going to name for you, who has been the greatest unsung hero so far? Matt Strahm, Edmundo Sosa, or Christopher Sanchez?
Ooh. I think I have to go Christopher Sanchez just because he really impressed me. Not his last start, the start before. I can't think of what team
against
it was.
The Mets.
But yes, when he came out and he struggled bad because at first I was like, oh, this is going to be a rough night. But he really impressed me how he ended up coming out. I think it was in the 3rd and just really turned things around, and the mental strength that he had there, and just hearing about all the development that's gone into this kid and how much that he's improved and wanted to improve. It seems like he's even got more. I think he threw 7 of his 10 fastest pitchers of his whole career on Saturday, which is insane. So yeah, I would have to say Sanchez, I think.
Yeah, and that certainly doesn't take anything away from Matt Strahm, who has not given up a run since opening day, or Edmundo Sosa, who has made the loss of Trey Turner completely inconsequential by basically replicating Trey Turner's production, which, again, you want to talk about how you know you're having a blessed season? That's a pretty good indication. Last thing, and I'm going to talk about a different team than the Phillies, the Atlanta Braves, entering play on Thursday, 6 games behind the Phillies in the National League East. Is it too soon to count them out of the division race? But do you also, at the same time, get the feeling that this isn't their season, that it just isn't their season, especially with Strider going down?
Yeah, I think they definitely haven't caught luck. Matt Olson got off to a really bad start too. I haven't seen lately if he's starting to pick it back up, but it just seems like they're like falling apart. They've never had the chemistry that the Phillies have these last couple years, and I think that really hurts them, and you can see it. But with all that being said, you can never count out a team in baseball. Injuries happen, slumps happen, like I said, and we're going to hit a rough stretch coming back from All-Star break, like I said, in the schedule. So you can never count out a team, especially the Braves, because they do have so much talent. But it does, to your point, it does not feel like the Atlanta Braves we've been seeing.
I had said all during the offseason that I thought the Braves offense, everyone had a career year last year. All of them. You can't sustain that year after year, but I didn't think the drop-offs in OPS and everything would be as stark as we've seen. I do think they'll pick it up a little bit. They'll make a run at the Phillies at some point, but it does feel like this is kind of a make or break time for them. Like if they're not careful, they could look up and suddenly they're 10 games back, which we've seen happen to the Phillies when the Braves would front run. So kind of feels like a role reversal for sure with these two teams right now. Hey, Sam, so if people want to watch Phillies Nation TV, how do they do that? When does the first show air? When can they see you and Todd Zalecki and friend of the podcast, Greg Murphy, on their TV?
I had to check the date real fast. So it debuts this Saturday, the 25th of May, and it'll be every Saturday, an hour before the Phillies will be a new episode, so you can always check in there, and then it will re-air throughout the week. So if you miss it, don't worry, you can catch it another time and during rain delays and stuff. So yeah, every single Saturday, an hour before the game. So really cool spot for us. And yeah, it's so much coming to you. We just were filming the other day. We got like the Richie Ashburn Foundation golf outing, and then we did Aaron Nola's Bowling for the Troops. So we had just so many past like stars and new stars, and it's really cool to be with them, and then hosting with Todd Zalecki and Murph. Obviously, they're just great names in Phillies world, so it's just a really fun and cool experience, I'll say, just because you get to be around all these stars and all these baseball lifers, and I love that.
Yeah, that's going to be a great show. So everybody looking forward to that. Make sure you check it out, and you can follow all of Sam's work on her Twitter account as well, @SamStaff. Sam, thanks for coming back on Hittin' Season. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was fun. We'll have to do it again in like August.
Absolutely. You bet.